I would now like to welcome Ms. Jayshree Paranjape, ma'am. She is the team lead for the topic Ensure Exclusive Breastfeeding for the first 6 months and continue breastfeeding up till 2 years and beyond. Jayshree ma'am is a co-convener in Indian Dietetic Association, Mumbai, and also serves as a senior dietitian, BYL Nair Hospital. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Shivanshi, and thank you, the team. Can you hear me? Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah. Shivanshi, will you share my presentation?
Sure, ma'am, no problem. I'll do that. Please give me
right. So my topic is ensure. I have to discuss the guideline about exclusive breastfeeding for first 6 months and continuing up to 2 years. Now, when I was going through these guidelines, there are a few questions which popped up in my mind. While we are discussing each slide, I will be talking about these concerns. Although these guidelines very well explain about importance of breastfeeding and what are the advantages of breastfeeding, we still need to worry about, what the thoughts which came to my mind is exclusive breastfeeding, the idea of breastfeeding. Hello? Hello? Hello, can I continue?
Sure, ma'am. So sorry for the disturbance.
Yeah, you are sharing my presentation, right? Hello? You have not yet shared my presentation, Shivanshi. Anyways, so I will continue what I wanted to say. What I'm saying is exclusive breastfeeding for first 6 months as a gold standard for infant, and the benefits are for mother as well as for the child. Having said that, we also need to think about, has the message gone down very well to all the mothers from different socioeconomic stratas? What I found over the years is that all these things get discussed only, on these platforms. But I am working in one of the leading MCGM hospital. But this message of exclusive breastfeeding has not gone down, and it is everybody's responsibility to ensure that that this message reaches every person from every socioeconomic strata. There are different challenges for people who are coming from lower socioeconomic groups, and there are different set of challenges from upper socioeconomic group. Shivanshi, please go on slideshow. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. 1 second. I am facing a little disturbance from here. Please give me 1 minute.
Okay. So, what we find that although we say that ensuring breastfeeding for first 6 months, are there institutes from every strata which give 6 months of leave to the employees? So it is very easy to say that women should breastfeed up to 6 months and over 2 years. But even up to 6 months, there are many institutes, maybe only government institutes, which give 6 months leave to their staff. But even in corporate setup, leaving aside few corporates, girls do not get leave. In fact, we also learned that many employees don't want to hire women employees because they will have to give them pregnancy leave. So it is very well to see that 6 months leave. Now one can argue that, can I go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So we are saying that as soon as baby, when to start feeding and how long to continue, because once the baby is born, immediately the feeding will resume. I mean, this is what the guidelines are saying, that first milk, that is colostrum, which is rich in vitamin A and proteins and other nutrients, it should not be discarded, but it should be fed to the infant immediately. Many a times it is considered dirty milk and it is not given, especially in lower socioeconomic strata. But no, for the immunity, it is needed that that first milk is fed to the infant. Avoid feeding honey, glucose, water, dilute milk formulas before initiation of breastfeeding and anytime during the first 6 months. This is a major misconception which we find that many a times. In the next slide we will be addressing that issue, that mothers feel that the milk is inadequate or the child requires water, and so they will be giving glucose water or diluted milk formulas. Giving water in addition to breast feed in the first 6 months of is not required even if the climate is hot. Why? Because the milk, the hind milk and fore milk has enough water, hind milk has all the nutrients. So up to 6 months, no other feeding is required, and breastfeeding to be continued up to 2 years. Now, this is what the guidelines say. This is very well. But having said that, we also need to understand, as I was talking earlier, that many people, many girls in many associations, when you are not granted 6 months of leave, then what? Forget about corporates or forget about hospitals. Even our own maid, do we give her 6 months maternity leave? Because then it is loss of money for her. So we these guidelines should be offering some alternative. Express breast milk is mentioned, but again, do we have these proper arrangements in corporate setups to express out the milk? Or are we teaching these new mothers how to express out the milk and to store it? So maybe there should be some discussion that should have happened in the guidelines. I don't know whether it is the right this or not, but I feel it is needed. Also, the guidelines do not speak about these special conditions when mothers do not have sufficient milk and then they have to switch to formula feeds. So then what is an alternative? So maybe there should be some discussion or some guidance given to these young mothers, that if they have to give formula feed, what kind of formula feed to be started in case of mothers, because even the milk banks are not so popular or they are not so widespread, or even the facilities for storage of milk is not there. So these things should be thought about when we are giving these guidelines. The next guideline, Shivanshi, next one. Yeah. What ensures an adequate supply of breast milk? This is very well explained, that on-demand feeding, frequent suckling by the baby, and complete emptying of one breast prior to offering second one is important for feeding nutrient concentrate and higher fat content of hind milk. Because normally what mothers do is the baby suckles on one breast and maybe within 5-10 minutes the baby may be put on other breast. Adequate growth of baby indicates adequate supply of breast milk, because again mothers have this challenge that they feel that the milk may not be adequate. Working mothers can express her breast milk and store it safely and hygienically at 2 to 4 degrees Celsius for up to 8 hours. Again, here, if she doesn't have these facilities, India is a developing countries, these facilities may not be there. So then what? So we need to offer these solutions when we are talking about guidelines. Also, yeah, next slide, please. Again, when we are talking about that suckling, I think there is no mention of if there are twin babies or multiple babies, how the mother should ensure adequate supply, or how she should go about feeding. So, because we do find, or when there are multiple pregnancies, one after the other within a span of 1 or 2 years, so there should be mention about these special situations also when we are giving the guidelines. Then there is these common myths and problems which are discussed. the main this is inadequate secretion of breast milk, and mothers, and because they feel that they do not have sufficient milk, they discontinue breastfeeding, and baby started on formula feed. Now in our practice, we also find that there are many doctors, even the pediatric, I do not know pediatricians, but certainly not pediatricians, but GP certainly encourage, or they write these formulas for mothers ki okay tumhara ye nahi hai. So we need more lactation experts, and this message needs to percolate down, and we need to make this awareness, I mean special program conducted. And it is not only in the lower socioeconomic strata, but in upper socioeconomic strata also, for various reasons, mothers, even though they have all kinds of support, they may not be feeding, because this message has not been popularized as much as it should be. It is often misconstrued that breast milk should be discontinued when it appears stained with blood, but this is not the case. The blood stain will disappear gradually. So these are some of the myths and some of the problems which are discussed. The problems discussed in the guidelines are, they are very well explained. Now, what we should be, next slide, please. Then what are the advantages of breast milk? I am not going to read this. They are very well explained in the guidelines, that why breast milk is important and what all benefits it offers to the mother as well as to the child. So this is fine. Next slide, please. The effect of maternal undernutrition on breast milk. Now, nutrition composition of breast milk is maintained in mild to moderately undernourished mothers. In severely undernourished mothers, the quality and composition of breast milk may be affected. So then we have to give additional allowance of foods that are rich in nutrients, good quality protein and essential fats. That is what this are saying. But again, for certain strata, we should be offering the examples of what foods to be given, which are rich in nutrients and which are low cost. So giving more examples will make our point more clearer, as guidelines are used not only by the dietitians or the doctors, but they also can be used by those working in the community. Initiate early supplementation to meet nutrient requirements of mother as well as baby. Now, when we are talking about supplementation, supplementation can be of micronutrients or macronutrients. Now, I'm going to talk about something little controversial. I am not sure about it, but at times, if we have to give protein supplements, what happens is many of the protein supplements do most of the high protein supplements which are available in the contain sweeteners. Now, how safe is using sweetener? A protein supplement which is high in sweetener for mother who requires high protein supplementation. So again, there should be some thought which is given to use of high protein supplements and the type of supplements and type of, the contents of these supplements, because these are special situations where we need to, because the patient is vegetarian, if we cannot meet her requirement through diet alone, there is twin baby. So in that case, there should be some thought given about use of supplements and the composition of that supplement. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. Are medicines and additive substances secreted in the breast milk? The guidelines say medicines like antibiotics, painkillers, and additive substances like caffeine and alcohol are secreted into breast milk, and they could prove harmful to breastfed infants. Fine, but it would be appreciated if guidelines say that when they say caffeine or alcohol, how much, because tea and coffee at the end of the day are comfort foods for everyone. So is having just a cup of coffee. So if basically we being scientists, quantification of the terms which are supposed to be harmful, if it is mentioned, that would be really appreciated. Again, antibiotics and painkillers, because here when we are saying addictive substances, we are not talking about really the drugs, those kind of things, but we are talking about caffeine, which is routinely consumed thing. It may not be consumed in that quantity, but if there is some thought given, that would be very nice. So caution should be exercised when you are consuming medication, and it should be done under proper medical guidance. That is fine. Next, should HIV positive mothers breastfeed their babies? Okay, the guidelines talk about HIV may be transmitted to mothers, from mothers to infants to breast milk. But in resource poor setting, when breast milk is the only option for the mother, or where she may not have safe, hygienic, affordable feeding options, then the guidelines say that exclusive breastfeeding up to 4 months, and then complete stoppage and weaning from breast milk at 6 months to avoid transmission. Now here, somehow I did not find the mention of TB infection, because TB is very common. So if there is also mention about what about TB or about other infections, whether mothers can breastfeed the baby or not, yeah, what precautions should be taken, that will be appreciated. Next line, please. Next, so this was about COVID, but now COVID, I suppose, is that way history. But WHO recommends that mothers with suspected and confirmed COVID-19 should be encouraged to initiate or continue breastfeeding with the proper precaution. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the points to register here are early initiation of breastfeeding within first hour of the birth is crucial. Colostrum, the milk which is secreted in first 3 to 4 days, which is rich with nutrients, and mainly it contains all the immunonutrition. So mother should be encouraged to feed colostrum to the baby. Infant should be exclusively breastfed for first 6 months. And one of my team lead has also said, I mean, I want to include that when we are, of course, that weaning is the next guideline, so somebody else will be talking about it. But if the mother is a working mother and if she has to give formula feed, or as I said, if she has to start complementary feeding at an earlier stage, if there is some mention of that what those complementary feeding options are or the formulas are, that would be wonderful. Family should actively support breastfeeding. Lactating mothers with any disease should continue breastfeeding unless medically advised. Ensure that mother is counseled on breastfeeding techniques. So maybe these the social media, this is era of social media when this messages should be made. I mean, these platforms should be used to give out the message, and it should not remain within these boundaries. Ensure nutritionally adequate diet during pregnancy and lactation, and medicines can be taken with physician's advice, and lactating mothers should avoid addictive substances. Now here there is again mention of tobacco, alcohol, and psychotropic drugs. But in the guidelines, it talks about caffeine. So if they talk about caffeine and tannin and quantify the amounts, that will be very nice. Thank you so much for the patient hearing. Thank you, Shivanshi, and thank you, audience, and thank you, everyone, for inviting me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing this topic. I think your expertise and the passion for this subject was very, very evident. And I believe we are left with a very deeper understanding of the necessary measures that, we need to promote or to take up for maternal health and, child health. Thanks again, ma'am, for sharing your knowledge and for inspiring us.